This particular article refers to the statements by Jesus regarding the second coming. And it's interesting to know that probably a quarter of all that he says in the New Testament is related to the second coming. So for him, it's a very important topic. But he doesn't have that much to say about the signs that precede the second coming. But what he does have to say is to warn us of certain particular things. And so these are more warnings about what we can expect the culture, the state of the church, etc., will be like at the time of the second coming. And I sort of grouped them into four groups because they seem to come into those four groups. And the four groups were this. The second coming will be sudden and unexpected. That is a repeated refrain. It's like a thief in the night. Secondly, the social conditions at the time will be one of prosperity, mocking the things of God and morally depraved. The third characteristic of the second coming is the threat to the church will be from spiritual sleep, doctrinal error, and lack of moral separation. And the fourth characteristic is that there is a strong recommendation from Jesus that the church is to keep itself pure, faithful in the Lord's service, and upholding the apostolic traditions and teachings. And so the theme one gets is very much along the lines of be alert, be awake, watch and wait, and pray, lest you enter into temptation. And there's a sense here that the second coming is an important doctrine. Otherwise, he wouldn't spend so much time talking about it. And Jesus' chief concern is that when the second coming comes, we will not be spiritually prepared. And that's why he is so exercised about teaching on this subject. And therefore, the concept of the second coming shouldn't be neglected. It shouldn't be considered controversial and therefore not discussed. And it shouldn't be a preoccupation about what are the signs, though that should actually still be part of our consideration. And I do talk about that. But the chief concern is to be ready, spiritually ready. And I think if you look at history of the last 2,000 years, what we are experiencing today in terms of material prosperity and the almost pernicious capacity of the internet to affect our thinking and our lives in ways which can be very destructive to our spiritual well-being. We can see maybe why Jesus was so persistent in warning us, because he was aware that this period of history, just prior to the second coming, would be a spiritually dangerous period, particularly for the church in prosperous, secure countries. For our persecuted brethren, actually none of this really applies, or little of it does. I imagine some does, for they have their own problems. But for those of us who live in settled, prosperous places, these warnings are very, very helpful and very, very needed. Thank you very much for listening.